Now that we've laid the foundation for our alerts, let's start laying that same foundation for MVVM, or model view view model. So if we go to our map view, and real quick, I covered model view view model extensively in SwiftUI Fundamentals. Again, this is kind of like the sequel to SwiftUI Fundamentals. So I'll give a quick overview, but we're not going to like super dive into it. Plus, I think if you're not super familiar with it, this explanation, along with the practice we're going to get as we go through the course and kind of refactor our views, I think you'll get it that way. So the basics of model view view model, right? So we have our model, which again are things like DDG location, right? This is a model object. Then we have views, which so like location map view, right? This is like our view. And then view model we don't have yet. But view model is essentially where the business logic for your view will go, right? It kind of connects the model and the view. What do I mean by business logic? Well, this network call, big red flag here, right? You shouldn't be making like network calls on your views. Even, this alert item stuff, this region, right? Essentially your view, even though I guess you need to know about the region for the view, but we're going to move it out anyway. But your view should really just be view stuff, right? Essentially your view should be like, just tell me what to show and I'll show it. Like the view shouldn't have to figure out what it's going to show. The view should be told what to show, to put it like super simply. So essentially what we're going to do to refactor this into MVVM is we're going to move our network call or our CloudKit Manager call into the view model. That way that's out of the view. And then we're going to move, this alert item in this region out of there. So that way our view is just going to basically be this, right? And again, the view is stupid, to put it simply, right? Tell me what to show and I'll show it. I don't want to figure it out for myself. So that's how you should be thinking about model view view model. And again, if this is your first time getting like experience with it, you'll see us refactor it many times, and hopefully, you'll get it from there. So the first thing we want to do is in our screens. Now, real quick, this again, subjective project organization. I know we're in the views folder. I know we're in the screens folder, and a view model isn't a view. However, I like to have my view model in my view files right next to each other, not completely in separate sections of the organization, because you're going to see how, like, most of the time when you're working, if you have a bigger screen and you're not fully blown up, you're going to have two editors. You're going to have your view model on the right and your view on the left. Like that's how closely interacting they are. So I don't want to have to search for my view models. I like them right next to each other. Again, my personal preference on organization. So in the screens, I'm going to create a new group called location map view. And then I move the location map view into that folder. And then in the folder of location map view, now we do Command N for a new file, Swift file, hit next, call this location map view model, right? Basically, if I have a location list view, it's just location list view model. I just kind of add model at the end of the view. Hit create. So now again, in my location map view folder, I'll make this bigger so you can see it and move it up. I'll just move my head probably. And location map view model. And then again, some weird quirk that I have is I like the view model to be on top. I don't know why, just me, whatever. So now my location map view folder has my view and my view model, just how I like to do it. So now we want to create a final class, and the final keyword basically just means you can't subclass it. So somebody can't create a subclass of my location map view model. Really just is a slight optimization in the compiler. Side note, I saw a talk at Lyft one time at one of their meetups. Surprisingly, an Uber engineer was giving a talk at Lyft at a Swift meetup. Kind of funny. But they talked about how like when they implemented like final everywhere, it knocked off a whole bunch of time from their building their code. So anyway, that's kind of where I got that little tip from. Telling stories. Location map view model. And that is an observable object. Hit return. So now this is our view model. So what I want to do, and this is really how I do it, again, when my screen is not super blown up. If you hit Option, by the way, hold Option and click on whatever file, that will open it up in the Assistant Editor. So I want my map view, and for now, since we're just refactoring, you don't really need to read the code that much. I'm going to make it a little smaller just for ease of vision, and we'll move this over. Now my head's probably going to be in the way. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to move this crazy variable here for my region. So I'm going to cut that region over here, paste it over here. Again, it's super long. And then I also want to move my alert item, put my alert item on top just so it looks decent. And we're going to come back and like make all this look good. And then I also want to basically get this CloudKit stuff out. So I'm going to cut this for now. And then let's close our location map view. I hate, all right, I'm gonna rant for a second. It really sucks developing when your screen display mode is blown up to the largest, your font's blown up. Like I'm used to that ultra wide where I can have 4 editors side by side. So I don't know. It's rough getting it adjusted to edit or developing, on this. So anyway, we'll make this a little bigger. The alert items need to be not state private var, they need to be published. And we'll talk about what this publish does in a second. Once we kind of get everything over here, I will walk through the view model and explain, what we did. Okay, I don't have MK coordinate span, I don't have CL location, I don't have region because I need to import mapkit. Command B. There, build failed. Okay, that's in our view, we're fine. So now under these variables here, and this just looks weird because this is a weird, really long variable, but we want to have func get locations and paste in the CloudKit manager stuff that we cut. So because we're in a closure here, we need reference to self, but what we can do here is we can capture self explicitly, enable implicit self in this closure. Again, this is a new feature in I believe Swift 5.2, brand new thing that you can just capture self up here, and then now you don't have to have self like all through here. Okay, so our view model is basically created. Of course, we're gonna add stuff as we build out this screen, but again, the structure, the foundation is there. So let me talk about this publish real quick and why this is an observable object. So what's gonna happen is when we make this CloudKit get locations call, eventually we're going to have an array of locations on here. Let's actually do that right now. So again, at published, and that's going to be var locations, which is an array of DDG location, and it equals an empty array to start. But what we can do instead of printing off locations, self.locations equals locations, the local one, right? So we're basically making this locations equal to the locations we got back. Okay, so back to the published. So what happens here, right? We call the CloudKit manager, it does its work, it gets the stuff back, it gets locations. Well, it's gonna set this locations equal to the locations that we got down here. And because this is published, this is kind of like announcing like, hey, I've changed. Update your UI, whoever's listening to me. Like we don't know who's listening to this. That's why it's an observable object. Certain other views can observe this, which our location map view is going to observe this view model. So basically what happens, we make the network call, our locations changes. Because it's published, it's gonna say, hey, I've changed, here's my value, update your UI. Okay, so now let's set up the listener to our view model here. So back to our location map view. Get rid of that giant thing here. You're gonna see we have a lot of errors. Let's clean up some spaces where we got rid of those variables. So you're gonna see cannot find alert item in scope. That's because we moved it to the view model. Okay, so we need to get access to that view model, right? We need to listen to that. So we do at state object, private var, we'll call it view model. And that is going to equal, we're gonna initialize a brand new location map view model. And again, because this is a state object, how SwiftUI works, right, is it will hold this state object in memory in connection with our location map view. It'll kind of like create a connection between them. So essentially, this location map view owns this location view model, and it is listening to the changes it made. So now in our alert item, which is saying we don't have access to, we can easily get access to it just by saying view model dot, right, because now it's on our view model. So Command B, oh, same thing with region, view model dot region, right? Because we move the region there and we move the alert item there. So again, same thing. When we change our, back to the view model here, right? Say we don't get locations, we get this failure, right? And then we set this alert item equal to this alert context. Well, again, our alert item is published. So anytime alert item changes, it's gonna broadcast its changes. And now we have our map view listening. So when alert item changes, it's gonna fire off our alert because we're bound to that. Do a Command B real quick to get rid of that error. Sometimes Xcode doesn't catch up. Cool, so the last thing we need to do for our view model, right, if we go back to it, is we created this function called get locations. So let's go back to that. We need to call that on up here. So we'll do view model.get locations. There you go. So again, we'll test this in a second, but I wanna walk through this. Like now our view is dumb, which is how we want it, right? All it knows about is who is my view model and who am I listening to, right? I'm dumb. Hey, view model, tell me what region to show and I'll show it. Tell me what alert to show and I'll show it. Tell me what locations you get and I'll show it. Again, to put model view model in a nutshell, the view should be dumb and all the business logic here should be handled in the view model. That's kind of again, a super simplistic way of thinking about it. But like I said, I wanted to just get this view model foundation right now. Of course, we're not done with the map view. We haven't even really started on our other views. So if this was your first time seeing this, you're going to get more practice, and practice makes perfect. So, but if you do have questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Again, I love the discussions that go on the thread. Don't be afraid to ask or even challenge the way I do things. Again, I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim to know everything. Because like I said in a previous video, that discussion in the comments is there, forever. So people taking this course a year from now can see all those discussions. And I've had so many comments on how valuable like the comment section is on these courses and some of the discussions that are had there. So don't be shy. Let's talk it out. All right, so that's the foundation for MVVM. Let's keep going.